There's always more to the news than a headline. We want to discover, to delve a little deeper, to find out what's really going on. Explanation, analysis, the people at the heart of every story. I'm Neil Patterson, and this is the Sky News Daily Podcast. So, by the end, we'll hopefully all understand what's going on in the world just that little better. Available wherever you get your podcasts.
Well, this is Sky News. In just a moment, the press preview, a first look at what is on the front pages. First, though, a reminder of our top stories this evening. At least 492 people have been killed by Israeli strikes in southern Lebanon during the deadliest barrage in decades. Israel's Prime Minister has told the people of Lebanon his country is at war, though with Hezbollah, not with them. Iran's president has accused Israel of attempting to lay traps to lead his country into a broader conflict. And flood warnings remain in place across England tonight after some areas received more than a month's worth of rain in just a day. Hello there, you're watching the press preview, a first look at what is on the front pages. Time then to see what's making the headlines with the political editor of the Daily Express, Sam Lister, and the political editor of the Liverpool Echo, Liam Thorp. Bit lonely without you, have to say, but looking forward to speaking to you. So let's see what's on the front pages then. Let's kick off with the Eye, reporting on Rachel Reeves's speech at the Labour conference, highlighting that the Chancellor is considering cuts to welfare to fund spending increases. Daily Express looks at the scrapping of the winter fuel payment as delegates booed a decision to delay the vote on the issue until Wednesday. Financial Times focusing on doubts over Rachel Reeves' borrowing rules as the Chancellor paved the way for higher government spending. The Telegraph says there's light at the end of the tunnel, according to Sir Keir Starmer, who will use his conference speech on Tuesday to tell the country to put up with some short-term pain for long-term prosperity. Similar story then for The Guardian, which also looks ahead to the PM's speech. PM vows to end the gloom is the headline there. And after nurses rejected the government's pay offer, the Daily Mail has an exclusive claiming that union boss McLynch wants to seize control of the economy. Daily Mirror says Sir Keir Starmer will vow to bring in a Hillsborough law to prevent state cover-ups from denying victims justice. And The Times reports on a plan by the Prime Minister for a law that will allow investigators to access suspected benefit fraudsters' bank details and seize their assets. The Metro also uses a picture of the heckler at the Labour conference, but leading with a story of a spike in police seizing e-bikes linked to street crimes. And the Daily Star reports on flash flooding, which has hit parts of the country after a month of rain fell in just 24 hours. Don't forget, scan the QR code that you'll see on screen during the programme. You can check out those front pages while you listen to our guests. So let's head straight to Sam and to Liam. Welcome to both of you. First of all, the great speech by the Chancellor, the Iron Chancellor, Sam. How did it go down in the hall and what did you make of it?
Yeah, it was interesting because she started out, obviously we've heard all these complaints from senior figures in the Labour Party about the doom and gloom and how they've gone a bit too far on it. We know it's hit business confidence and consumer confidence. And there's concerns about, the Chancellor and PM talking the country into a recession. So she determinedly struck a more upbeat tone. She started with a kind of discussion about how she was the first female Chancellor, how proud she was about that, how pleased she was that Labour had secured a landslide. And she really was trying to kind of be upbeat. She was talking about how optimistic she is for the future of the country. But obviously she has some big decisions to make, and the Eye refers to this. She's got a month to find some money, and obviously there are certain things that are obvious targets. The ballooning welfare bill is one of them, and it looks as though she may be well looking to try and bring down that sickness benefits bill, which we know has risen in the last few years since COVID.
Yes, to massive levels. I mean, this is a really tricky area, isn't it? Having tackled the winter fuel allowance, to go straight to welfare benefits, Liam, that'll hardly go down well with the base, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you look at Labour in office so far, what have we had? We've had cuts to the winter fuel allowance affecting millions of pensioners this winter. Labour didn't take on a decision to scrap the two-child benefit cap. So we're talking about vulnerable people here, and I report regularly on people who are absolutely reliant on benefits, and I think this may be seen by the base, by people in this city as well, and other places that have massive issues with deprivation, as going after the kind of vulnerable people rather than those with the broadest shoulders. I thought the speech today, as Sam said, she was trying to be optimistic, but there's this kind of big elephant in the room, and it's all about the budget in 4 weeks' time. There's, Rachel Reeves said no more austerity today, but she also said no more taxes on working people. So we're all kind of waiting to hear where she's going to find the money to fund public services, to fill this £22 billion black hole. And I think a lot of people will be disappointed to hear that her most obvious target is more vulnerable people. We've had protests today, and we'll talk about that later, from pensioners. People here in this city and elsewhere will be asking, what about those with broader shoulders?
Well, I mean, the Daily Express, picking up on that, furious Labour silences winter fuel pay debate. We saw the protest there. So what's happened to this discussion on winter fuel? Knocked to Wednesday, to when what? Well, most people have gone home? Is that what's happened?
Yeah, it does seem like Labour is shying away from this. They have tried to bury this vote at the fag end of the conference. The Prime Minister will have already jetted off to New York for the United Nations General Assembly. So he will be long gone by the time this vote takes place, if it ever does, in fact, take place. I mean, really, this is it's not a binding vote. It wouldn't force the government into doing anything, but it is symbolic, and they don't want to have that embarrassing fight with the unions at their first conference. Now, I went with my team down to the protest just on the outskirts of the conference today, and despite the torrential rain, it really was unpleasant conditions, people had turned out because they are so angry about this. One chap I spoke to had come from Sheffield. He wasn't a member of the union. He just heard about the protest and wanted to come over and show his upset about this. And that is what we're seeing. That is what we're seeing and hearing at the Daily Express every day. We receive more and more letters about this. People are very angry. And I think, yeah, although Liam was talking there about how vulnerable people are being put in the frame, and there will be concerns about that, I think the one thing I would say about targeting the pensioners is these are people who cannot take on extra work or find extra ways to make money. They are people who are on fixed incomes, and they do not have any ability to generate extra income by taking on extra jobs. If you're 80 and you're losing £300 overnight, £300 you were expecting to get, that is a huge amount to lose if you are on a low income. And although the Chancellor repeatedly says how she's protecting the lowest, the poorest pensioners, there are around 2 million who are really going to struggle this winter, who will not be helped.
Can I just say on this, I've been speaking to pensioners in Liverpool this week, and there's quite a lot of people who are just over the threshold where they're not on pension credit. And I think, and there was a kind of voice in the room that said that there is potential in means testing this benefit, but it's been done badly.
Yeah.
And there's this kind of middle section of people who are not wealthy, not rich, as you say, on a fixed income, but are just over that threshold, and they're the ones who are really going to suffer.
They're really going to suffer.
And
this
I wonder
winter.
if that's it, rather than a complete rejection of the policy, there's going to be a kind of reworking of it, possibly.
The problem is if you pegged it to the higher rate tax, 40% tax, which is the obvious thing to do, you actually just don't generate enough money from it.
Yeah.
So it's hard to see how the Chancellor would go down that route.
And also, they're not going to want to reverse the first difficult decision that they've taken.
Exactly.
Well, they're in a real
so
hole
little
of
money,
their own
I guess.
making.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you there. In the meantime, we had the chance to talk about her, what was it, her burning optimism today. It almost felt like she was inserting a few lines because she told to inject hope. We've seen the Daily Telegraph looking ahead to Sir Keir Starmer's speech on Tuesday, light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, is it a bit, Sam, a bit like painting by numbers at the moment? Everyone said, you know, we need to see the future end game. You need to give us hope. And here are all these lines kind of inserted.
Yeah, I mean, it's been interesting to me, this conference, because I do feel there are two distinct conferences going on here. You have the members, the grassroots, the people who are absolutely cock-a-hoop, and they are going around all the fringe events. They're really upbeat and very, very happy. But when you speak to ministers, when you speak to special advisors, it's a totally different picture. And they are really, really unhappy with how much gloom and doom the Prime Minister and the Chancellor have been spreading. And I think although they are, the PM and the Chancellor are very acutely aware now of the impact they are actually having on the economy by being so, you know, doom and gloomy, it's like a juggernaut, this. They're trying to turn around a juggernaut. They're trying to do a handbrake turn on the motorway in an articulated lorry. It just doesn't work. You can't go from one day saying things are so bad that we have to take money off poor pensioners to the next day saying, you know, it's all rosy and we're all feeling very optimistic about the future. It just doesn't really add up. And there's a bit in the middle that they seem to have missed, and I think that's the crucial problem here.
OK, just have a look at The Guardian as well on that. PM vows to end the gloom as Labour seeks to lift spending restrictions. We'll talk about that more, no doubt. Lots more still to come in the programme, including a law for Liverpool and the victims of the Hillsborough disaster. We'll talk about that next. It's also in Liam's paper. Back in a moment.
Mayhem in the Middle East, rippling in America's West.
Get back! Get back!
The resolve of these protesters is now being seriously tested. I saw police being forced or pushing young men and women to the ground as they made almost 100 arrests.
None of this is a peaceful protest.
I'm Martha Kellner and I'm Sky's US correspondent based here in Los Angeles. How are you feeling?
I am angry. It is an anti-woman agenda.
Sky News, get the full story first. Will the cold affect your voters?
Well, we have a lot of tremendous support, but it's nasty out there.
Can you beat Donald Trump, Governor? President Biden, do you trust President Xi? President Biden says that this meeting went well. He said real progress was made on a whole host of issues. Will your candidates win?
I hope so. I think they will. I think they're great candidates.
There's no doubt that Kamala Harris and her team are harnessing the power of social media. Do you think Kamala is brat?
Kamala's brat.
Are you scared?
Yeah, we were scared. It was terrible. Strong wind, building tearing down.
As them say, God works, so we can't do nothing.
The people here know that worse storms may well be on their way. Free, wherever you get your news.
I've had severe nightmares of these people coming in and just taking me in the middle of the night.
Ghislaine Maxwell has pleaded not guilty to all 6 charges against her. Mum, how are you feeling today?
Jeffrey said, you answer to Ghislaine, you just don't cross her.
I'm Dominic Waghorn, Sky's International Affairs Editor, covering a world that seems to be unravelling. War, unrest, revolution. It's our job to try to make sense of it all.
Day of this conflict.
They keep telling us that they want aid.
And this is what's left of it.
Tanks, heavy vehicle.
Why only in America? People want their country to work.
Just want to jump in a normal life.
Why are these homes empty?
I want you to be honest with people.
That has happened within minutes.
Sky News, the full story first. Free wherever you get your news.
I say, bring it on.
With America divided and tensions running high, get ready for an election like no other.
Join our teams as we follow the campaign trail as America decides.
We will win, win, win. Get closer to the action this US election with full reaction and analysis.
Sky News, the full story first.
Welcome back. You're watching the press preview. Sam Lister and Liam Thorp are still with me, live from Liverpool, though, so let's head back to you. And Liam, let's kick off with your paper. Also makes the front page, I think, of the Daily Mirror, which is to help victims of injustices. But explain more if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is obviously ahead of the Prime Minister's speech tomorrow. It was 2 years ago in this conference, in this same city, that Keir Starmer promised to bring in a Hillsborough law if he became Prime Minister, and this is him making good on that promise. It is something that the campaigners and the families of the victims of the Hillsborough disaster have campaigned on, and many other people, for a long, long time, and it's a massively significant change in the law. It's a huge victory for those people who've campaigned for so long, and there are different elements to it, and what we've got today in the Echo and in the Mirror is setting out those first steps about how this package of measures will actually change people's lives and change the law in this country. The most important thing really is this duty of candour, and this means that public officials have to tell the truth when it comes to major disasters, major scandals. We've seen a number of these kind of scandals in this country, whether it's the Grenfell disaster, whether it's the post office scandal, whether it's infected blood, and they all have a similar theme, and it's that the people who are just unlucky enough to be caught up in these situations have faced lies and smears and obfuscations from the state, from big organisations for a long time. And, you know, the Hillsborough families had to battle for more than 3 decades to kind of get the truth of what really happened in 1989. And this is an enormous victory for those families and a huge moment for them that the Prime Minister is going to set out that this is going to become a law. The other element to it is that there's going to be an independent public advocate who is recruited. That recruitment starts tomorrow when the Prime Minister makes his speech. That person's going to be deployed to any of these major disasters immediately to liaise with families, to gather information, to act on behalf of those families, which is something that the Hillsborough families never had. So it's a big deal. It's a really big deal. Obviously, in this city, it's huge, and it's a big moment for those families, and I hope they're very proud of everything that they've done.
Yes, and we remember, you know, the grind, the pain, the decades fighting for justice for Hillsborough. And in fact, the Daily Mirror picks up on some of those examples you mentioned there. Hillsborough for one, Grenfell 2, infected blood campaigners. You know, it seems sort of systemic at the moment, Sam, with the number of cases we've had. Even today, you know, sub-postmasters saying they're still noticing glitches on the Horizon IT system. So whether this makes a difference, we'll have to see. But, you know, at least a promise fulfilled, I suppose, for those victims.
I think it's an important step, and I think, you know, the pain and suffering that people involved in these tragedies go through is unimaginable, but to heap then on top of it a betrayal by the state is just unbearable. And I think, you know, any right-thinking person would want to see something introduced that would ease that and prevent future scandals happening in the same way. And I think certainly I used to work in Liverpool. I used to work on the Liverpool Echo, where Liam is now. This is a story that has, you know, it is part of the city's makeup, it's part of the city's soul. But also we've seen the very recent example of Grenfell. You know, it's only a few weeks since we had the publication of the report. And when you were actually looking through that and seeing the details, the kind of callous disregard for people's safety, and the greed at the heart of all that, and then the fact that it took so long to get to the bottom of it. I mean, you know, if there is a way of easing that, making it easier to get answers quickly for families involved in tragedies, I think that's only a good thing.
I think that the important thing to say here is that for too long, the power in this country is in the wrong place. And that's what it is.
I really apologise. We're already over. I do apologise. Sam Lister, Liam Thorp, thank you. Obviously, see you in the 11. We can talk for longer. Let's take a look at the weather then, shall we? Lots of flooding, as you know, and after more than a month's worth of rain in parts of the south, tomorrow looks drier before rain moves in again on Wednesday. Most places will have a dry start to the day, bar a few showers. Blustery north of Scotland will see outbreaks of rain. Also some for East Anglia and the southeast. That rain clearing to leave much of southern Britain dry, despite plenty of cloud around. Elsewhere, sunny spells developing along with showers. Parts of Scotland will see more general rain, cooler overall, but as I said, more rain coming on Wednesday. Well, Sky News at 11 is next. Our press preview continues. Hundreds dead in airstrikes in Lebanon as Israel says it is at war.
There's always more to the news than a headline. We want to discover, to delve a little deeper, to find out what's really going on. Explanation, analysis, the people at the heart of every story. I'm Neil Patterson, and this is the Sky News Daily Podcast. So, by the end, we'll hopefully all understand what's going on in the world just that little better. Available wherever you get your podcasts.